After the entire ordeal, me and my son were placed in a room in the hospital so that they could proceed in taking care of his initial needs. My mother, as well as my son's father, were escorted to that room so that we could be properly reunified by a nurse. After my son was checked out for the original reason that we came to the ED, we were seen by management, and then we were discharged home. As I look back, there are a couple of important points to make note of. Number one, I express gratitude for my son's pediatrician. As with all of the busyness of her office and seeing patients around the clock, within 1 week she made time on 3 separate days in 1 week to see my son, to recheck him out, to make sure that there was nothing that she could do additional to provide care for him. Number two, for all the law enforcement officers that responded so quickly and immediately and put themselves in harm's way without knowing myself or my son, possibly without knowing the paramedic that was still in the back with us. For those officers to immediately respond, it takes a very unique person to know that they're entering situations and even a profession that entails unseen danger, and to still proceed forward to put themselves in harm's way in dangerous situations for people they don't even know. That takes the character and the heart of a hero. And also for the nurse who assisted my mother and my son's father in reaching us once we were in a room in the hospital. She assisted with our reunification. I thank all of those involved, known and unknown, that really went out of their way to help my son, myself, and everyone in this situation. If there is an opportunity for these persons to be known, I would welcome that. I would love to thank them in person. As we go on to part 2, I find that it is very interesting how a moment of crisis can stay hidden beneath the surface for quite some time. After we discharged back home on that Sunday, I took 1 day off of work. At that time, although I worked for a base company, my location for that particular work for that base company was a different local ED. After the incident, I took 1 day off that Monday because I wanted to stay at home with my son, monitor his mood, his behavior, just to see if he was in distress in any way. And then by Tuesday, I was right back at it, working again. I did not recognize at that time that although I was still functional externally, I was still functioning at work. I was still functioning in my parenting role. I was still functional as it relates to interactions with others, including other family members. Underneath the surface, this crisis had taken a toll. Logically, being in the field that I'm in, I understood right away that there would probably be a need for me to have counseling. And so within that same week of the incident, I contacted necessary persons and signed myself up for therapy. And over time, I began therapy. A part of the reason that I knew this was going to be necessary is because although at times we remain functional, it doesn't undermine the fact that we have experienced something that was traumatic and could shake you to your core. I began to have nights where I would wake up at 3 in the morning and I would check windows, locks on windows, repeatedly, like around the entire house, like 4 times before I could go back to sleep. This was a repeat occurrence. I had nights, days as well, where I would hear my son screaming. And I was so hyper alert, so hyper vigilant that I would jump up out of bed at 4 in the morning or in the middle of the day, whatever we were doing, because I would hear him screaming, and I would run to his room. And my son was asleep. He wasn't even awake. I was hyper alert. And I realized over time, when I thought I heard him screaming, it sounded like the scream that he was screaming that day in the back of the ambulance. Trauma is an interesting dynamic. It's interesting because for some people, they can function in a dual capacity. They can be functional and still have an underlying struggle taking place at the same time. Additional symptoms. I would pull up for work at that separate ED, usually a little bit early, about 15 minutes early. And I noticed after the incident, within weeks, I would be in the parking lot on time with my vehicle parked, but I would have trouble walking into the entrance for that particular job because based on where the employee parking was at that time, the nearest entrance was where we swipe our badge and enter through the ambulance bay of the ED that I was working at the time. And over time, I realized that I had more and more difficulty, even though I was in the parking lot a few minutes early before my shift. I noticed I started being a little bit late because I had difficulty. Even with other entrances that were available on the building, I had difficulty re-entering that particular space, even though it wasn't the exact space of the incident. Additional symptoms. Almost 2 years later, in 2021, early 2021, I was driving to work and I had to pull over at CVS because of panic attacks, shortness of breath, heart racing. It was just enough for me to get into the front door. And I was crying, tears were coming down my eyes, and I looked to my right and I said, "Help, can someone help me?" As I squatted to the floor in CVS, the cashier, she came running from around the desk. My heart rate was high, and I was short of breath. And at the time, I wasn't sure if, because I do have some pre-existing medical conditions, I wasn't sure if I was having a panic attack or if this was a part of a medical condition, but it was not my norm. And so they called an ambulance, the paramedics came, and while in the ambulance, while receiving treatment and care, and thank you to the paramedics, they were amazing and consistent and caring. As we were driving, as they were taking me to the local ED, which happened to be the ED that I was attempting to head to work that morning, as we were going to, by default, my place of work, me as the patient now in this ambulance, I was able to calm myself a bit in the ambulance, but I was still frantic on the inside. I was able to calm myself on the outside to attempt to answer questions, but I was in an ambulance and I was frantic on the inside. And by the time we pulled up into the ambulance bay of the ED where I was working, now being the patient rolled in, my heart rate went back up in the ambulance bay. The hyperventilating heightened again in the ambulance bay. And I remember as we got inside, some of my coworkers were taking the information from EMS, and one of the EMS persons mentioned that as we pulled up in the ambulance bay, her symptoms heightened again. He mentioned that. And so that day, some of my coworkers assisted in my care, and I was discharged and I went home for the rest of that day. This is approximately 2 years after the original incident. The original incident of my son and myself being taken and the paramedic being taken was in 2019, April of 2019. Here we are in early 2021, and I had been to therapy and symptoms were still present. By the end of that year, I struggled all through that year with not being on time for work, but getting myself from the parking lot to swipe my badge and check in through the ambulance bay and any other entrance for that matter. By the end of 2021, my location transitioned back to my base company, still providing mostly the same services, just at a different location. This is now 2022. In 2022, I transitioned my location back to my base office. And in April of 2022, 3 years later, I came in one morning, pleasant environment, sat down in my supervisor's office and began speaking with her. Basic talk, good morning, how are you, so on and so forth. As we're having conversation, in a moment's notice, out of nowhere, I burst into tears, hyperventilating, hand shaking, sweating, and I kept saying, "He took me and my son. He took me and my son." My supervisor immediately closed her door and was shocked because we were just having a normal conversation, a great morning. And I knew in those moments, she talked to me for a while, and I knew in that moment, I need to go back to therapy. 3 years later, I need to do this again. I'm still working on my internal healing process. The thing with trauma is it doesn't matter how minor it seems to others. I had others mention, oh, well, he didn't get far with you all. Things of this nature. It was diminished for some, not for all. However, in that moment, in real time, when your child is sick, and you can hear your child at times screaming, the images never leave your mind, the sound, the memory never leaves. And I noticed that in 2022, when I had this panic attack, it was in April. So I signed myself back up for therapy yet again. Never be ashamed to go back as many times as necessary on your healing journey. Never be afraid, never be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of at all, ever. The healing process for some takes a long time. For some, the time may be varied. It does not matter. Go back as many times as necessary until your healing journey is complete. Do not give up on yourself. You deserve to heal. Others' perceptions of the incident are of no consequence when it comes to your personal healing journey. So I went back to therapy, and I stayed for a duration of time, processing yet again 3 years later. As I look back now, the month of April every year is not as difficult. It's less difficult. For me, a part of the healing process has been to learn and understand that it doesn't mean it all goes away. Healing for me means that it doesn't have as strong as a grip anymore. I don't just have to be functional, which is necessary in life, but I can actually heal. I can actually have a healing process for the parts of myself that are under the surface of functionality. And so, 2023, April was not a daunting month. 2024, the month of April, was not a daunting month. And 2025, the month of April, was not a daunting month. Healing takes time, but it is worth every moment, every ounce of effort, even when you think you can't muster the effort, whether it's therapy, whether it's just simple relaxation, whether it's carving out time for yourself to try to find time to rest. All of those elements can contribute to healing. So, as I progressed over time, I recognized that there was less just surface level functioning, and there was more of a cohesive, there were no longer these two separate parts where I had to operate in survival mode and be functional from day to day, to go to work, to interact with others, to parent, to interact with my own other family members. I no longer just had to be functional or had to be in survival mode to function. I was no longer living in survival mode. which is necessary at times when we've gone through something significant. However, survival mode was slowly being replaced with wellness and feeling whole again. And so, 2023 through the current has been much more manageable, and I just want to encourage everyone. The process can be uncomfortable and painful. You can hear and see and be told the outside perceptions of others. However, if you know internally that you are hurting, no matter if other people thought it wasn't a big deal, if you know you're hurting, if something harmed you, you deserve a chance to find wholeness. Thank you for joining us on It's Time to Heal.